$1 million man always gets his way. I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option. As Sori says, 125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. 125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and you get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at villageXchange@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in a Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go on the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Yes, Pinky, buy our merch.
Per the huge, babe. You have to stop that.
All right, dear
I'm going to have to
listener.
take over this editing.
It's programming, yeah. I need to make that rule, a scene-specific rule. Anyway, this is Whitechapel. This is for the big homie Randy, and also the song after will be Randy because it's meant to be taken like simultaneously. This is correct. This is Whitechapel. This is our endless war. This is for the big homie Randy, and let's go.
must take back our justice for all. We can march and shut down upon Capitol Hill. We're calling you out. Come reach us now and say your true war. We can march and shut down upon Capitol Hill. We're calling you out. Come reach us now and say your true war. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This world is ours. Let's take it back and get them there. Let's take it back. We the people have spoken against our endless war. My country disobeyed. Sweet land of idiocracy.
That was good. Oh my god.
White Mountain Chapel.
Yeah, we haven't gotten a real good headbanger in a while.
In quite some time.
Appreciate that.
Respect to all the other bands. Holy moly. I really love that song. SubhanAllah, you wouldn't be able to sing that song today. He said we're going to march on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, I know. You know what's weird?
And
okay.
we the people.
Yeah, I know. When he was saying that, I was like, wait, when did this come out? Because he said, I'm calling you out.
2014.
So then I saw it was 2014. I was like, oh, that's so weird.
That's got to be the craziest title for a song ever. The Saw is the Law. SubhanAllah. That's great. Look at that.
Yeah, I
the
see it.
Saw is the Law. Hopefully somebody requests that song soon. Man.
Heavy.
That hit the spot, man. That's what we needed, man.
You definitely
That
needed
was
the
some-
intro before this, too.
Yeah. It's funny because Randy, he didn't include the instrumental with it. He included the official video, lyric video, whatever, but it wouldn't download. They had a black on it. So this was the only one I had, and it included the little instrumental at the beginning. So you got a little bonus there, Whitechapel fans.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah,
that song, man.
There was the music video.
Yeah, I'm sure the music video would have been hectic, bro. The reason we don't play official music videos is because all our stuff gets demonetized, because if you play the song straight through, then they'll demonetize your video, which is fine. That's why
people do that.
That's why we do the Patreon thing. But the problem is, if you do a regular video, like a full blown, music video, not only will
like
they
someone's
demonetize
official
it,
video,
they will block it so people can't even see it. So
yeah. And depending on who it is, they'll strike you. Remember, we got strikes for Guns N' Roses.
yeah, we got a copyright strike. Where that
Yeah.
was almost
If you get
killed
three
our channel.
strikes,
They're gonna kill our channel.
Three strikes, you're out. You'll be like, where's Vin and Sori? They're gone. For all opportunity. Okay.
Yeah, this song was just heavy, man. Like I said, and this is great because we did a power metal song like a couple, while back, and I'm like, I just like the rawness and the realness of this kind of metal, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like and it's not to say that this isn't a technically great song, because it's still great, even if the riffs are not like impossible to play. It's about how you arrange them and what you're trying to say lyrically and all the rest.
Yes, I also felt like sometimes the way it's layered, the way they layered the instruments.
Agreed.
Everything was like assaulting you.
Yeah.
And I liked it.
Very good. Very good way to put it. Yeah, this band is heavy. Holy shizzle.
Yep.
I
I can't hear that word without thinking of
What?
JB.
JB? Shizzle?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Because it was so uncomfortable when he would say
he's
words
always
like
trying
that.
to be down with this chuckle.
I was like, stop.
Trying to be down with
Just
this
be
chuckle.
you. Just be you.
Then he had that rap that he did.
Well, that's what happens. The thought goes from there to the rap. Anyway.
We worship the dogs.
Stop! I can't.
That shit's embarrassing, bro. I remember like when
Confession, I recorded it.
when he was doing that shit. Cause I hadn't heard it, so we were all like rapping on this song or whatever at this church, And the first guy went up, and he was good. He was decent. You know what I'm saying? And then obviously, your boy, you guys, whatever. I killed it. And so I hadn't heard this dude's verse, man. And this dude got up, and he dropped like probably the worst. There's that Jesus Christ is my. That's all. Like that was probably the only rhyme I've heard that was more cringy than this guy's.
Oh.
This guy. It was pretty bad. It's pretty bad. You still have it, right?
Oh, it's somewhere, yeah.
Should probably put it up on Patreon. They haven't had something in a long time. You know what I'm saying? Plus, they can hear some.
So true.
They can hear some.
They
can hear some old school Vin.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put it up there on Patreon for the patrons.
Well, I gotta find it. I have to find it. No promises.
I think I have an idea. We'll talk about it offline. Okay. Whitechapel. Holy moly. America. What did you think the overarching message of the song was?
Oh, I got a little bit lost in that. I mean, the overall, it just felt like. Well, maybe I misunderstood them, but I felt like they were saying like, there's negatives and there's positives to us, but this is who we are. And then when it said, but at the same time, America has, like, we keep sacrificing different core things that we supposedly have. Like, we are not a nation of justice. We are, he says, America, our wasteland where death is entertainment. Like, it just, actually, I'm not sure if there was anything positive. No, I get, there was one part where he says,
well, while we still have the liberty, I think is a positive.
Yep.
And this is one of those, it's the government that's a problem. We the people are not the problem. We should just get together type of things. This line I thought was extremely insightful. The place where moving forward means you turn the other direction.
Oh.
Where
was that?
It's
right there, yeah.
Yeah, and he repeats it a couple times because I think that that's such a brilliant way of looking at the simplistic nature in which we do politics. So I went off yesterday because Joe Biden basically said the exact same thing that Ben Shapiro or any right-wing talking head would have said about the Dante Wright shooting, which is, hey, just wait till everything comes out and there's no reason to riot. And you know what I mean? Like he said exactly what you would think Ben Shapiro and the rest of those guys would say. So the entire time last year when I was saying, look, Biden is not good for black people. Like Biden's and I had these very well-intentioned white people telling me what was best for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And what are you talking about? Trump's is horrible. So it's like, so they only give us two options, right?
Oh yeah.
And then there's a right option supposedly and a left option. What's really interesting is that my right-wing friends are like, please.
Oh no.
Move. We gotta go. Solve the problem.
I was waiting to see if it was coming back. I didn't know what was happening with it. Is it still recording?
Yeah, we're good. We're
Sorry,
good.
Guys.
So now we have this term called progressives that are led by AOC and all the rest of it, and they're describing progressivism as being far left. But if you talk to a real dyed-in-the-wool right winger, they'll say there is no right wing party in America. And then if you talk to a Jimmy Dore, they'll say there is no left wing party in America. It's all corporatist. And so now it's like, okay, so moving forward or progress is just going down either one of the two directions that they force us to. So if the Democrats are in power, they're going to say, oh, the Republicans, they did all this, and now we're going to move forward in progress when it's really just fitting their agenda. And then vice versa. Mm-hmm. It's the same, but the same things keep happening over and over again. We had cages built during the Obama administration, kids in cages in the Trump, and now we've got kids in cages in the Biden administration. Like we had police killing unarmed black people in the Obama administration. We got police killing unarmed black people in the Trump administration. We got police killing unarmed people in the Biden administration, and nothing is happening. Right. Like so. We still have qualified immunity. We're in our second president since Obama. We still have qualified immunities. Police can go just kill people at a 98.3 rate of not guilty or non-indictment. You know, this stuff is just crazy. Like, and that's just one example. Let's not talk about healthcare. You know, like, let's not talk about the whole.
I was reading this thing. I mean, you know me. I never know when something is actually true. I tend to think that. But the guy it was a medical health professional, and he said that the person was dying, and they were trying these treatments to see if they could save the person's life. And the last words that the man said was, "Who's gonna pay for this bill?"
Oh my God.
And like it was like,
jeez. Well, there it is. There it is. You know, like that's. You know, you had family members that were displaying some COVID-like symptoms, and I'm like, they need to go to the hospital.
But they won't go.
They won't do it.
They don't have insurance.
And they were right in the sweet spot for, you know, dying from COVID. I mean, they're over like shit is crazy, bro. So, like that's what it says. My country, 'tis of greed,
And that
sweet
girl
land
that
of
we were talking to,
idiocracy.
where her father had a heart attack or something, and he wasn't going because.
Yeah, they had to force him into the car. And he would have died otherwise. But he didn't want to go because he didn't want to pay the bill.
Right.
And he didn't want to burden his family with the bill.
Right.
My country, 'tis of greed. You know, like how, like there's so many things wrong in our country that would be solved tomorrow if it wasn't just for greed and empire building. You know, I was watching this Royal Marine. So this is a guy from the UK. He was watching this thing about 5 reasons you should not mess with the U.S. military. And this dude was just blown away by how much money we spend on defense. Like it's just the numbers are. People have no idea. It's insane. You know, like there was it's really funny because the SAS. So what we call Delta Combat Applications, whatever, was really just to be replicated off the UK version, which is the SAS, Special Air Service.
Okay.
So these guys are legendary. They created the 40 miler. Beckwith, all these other guys were looking at, you know, at these people to kind of design Delta.
Okay.
So you had this thing where Delta, you know, were like, we're the best, we're the greatest, blah, 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 blah. But then you had the SAS was always saying, yeah, but I mean, you guys came from us, right? So, hello. Well, I was watching this interview. He had this SAS guy in Iraq that he was working side by side with a Delta outfit. And he said, oh no, it's Delta by far. And which was pretty crazy to hear an SAS guy say that, considering the history. And the SAS guy said, well, you know how British people are. It's just the facts. You know, they don't get caught up in all this, you know, emotionalism, whatever. But the SAS guy was like, they just have way more money. They just spend way more money on training and gear and all the rest of it. He's like, they've outstripped, they've lapped us. We spend so much money on quote, and if we were like surrounded by hostile nations that wanted to destabilize and destroy our country, the term defense makes sense. But again, this is why language is so important, because we call it the Department of Defense and we call it defense spending.
Yeah.
So what Americans
That's
are hearing
true.
is okay, this is to defend us. That's right. Like.
Nobody's trying to mess with us.
Nobody's going after us. We don't need to defend ourselves tonight. It's like Mike Tyson in his prime moving into a block of preschoolers. I mean, that's literally, I know people are going to say, oh, you Americans are so arrogant, but I'm telling you, that's literally what it is. Like, there is nobody that can threaten us. Like, the whole world put together could not threaten us. I promise you. I'm not trying to brag. This is a bad thing I'm saying. We spend so much money on empire building. Like, if people said, okay, we want to put $58 billion into the Empire Expansion Fund, people would say, whoa. But because you call it defense spending, oh, okay, well, who doesn't want...
You're absolutely right.
Who doesn't want to defend themselves?
You're absolutely right.
It's like, so all this money that we've been spending on war, I think we spent $8 trillion since 9/11. So we've spent $8 trillion on war. We've spent 1 million innocent Iraqi lives. We spent thousands of gallons of American blood, blah, 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 blah. to expand the empire, but we can't take care of people in our country that has COVID.
Yeah.
And
It's
we got
crazy
people
how-
making like literal life and death decisions because of finances. But, you know, let's keep sending $500 billion in defense spending. Go ahead.
It's crazy how fear dictates what we do. Like you said, if you say defense, then people are like, well, they're afraid. And so,
Right.
yeah, so we should put a bunch of money. Or,
Right.
you know, the fear is what puts us in a situation where we say, well, the kids are in the cages, but you know what I mean? Like, we need
You don't
it.
want
You don't
MS-13 in here, do you?
You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
so much stuff that when we act out of fear, not just on like the stage of our nation, but also in our lives, we make decisions based off fear, and those decisions that we based off fear are very destructive to us and to people around us. Like, fear is necessary if you're, you know, if someone's chasing you with a hacksaw, then yes, you should be afraid, you know. But
Yeah.
sometimes we get fearful of stuff that's not even in motion, and it causes us to be very unfeeling people toward other people. When I think about those kids in the cages, and I think, oh my gosh, like how we react when it's somebody else's kid versus how we would react if it's our own kid. Like
Yeah.
with Biden, you know, you have him having that speech and he's like, you know, but, you know, looting is never, did he say looting?
Violence is never appropriate.
I'm pretty sure he used the word looting.
And
did he?
looting, yeah. Looting and violence is
like,
never
that's
appropriate.
never appropriate. Which, like I said yesterday, when his son was in trouble, he
He
what's
flew
the
over
word?
to
$1 billion.
He extorted the Ukrainians, made sure they didn't hire lawyers that they fired the prosecutor who was looking at his son's Burisma
Yeah.
little scam.
Like,
there
he
that-
did a lot of sideways stuff to protect his kid.
Yeah.
And his kid's life wasn't on the line. If
Right.
somebody went and just killed his kid out in the street just because you know what I'm saying? Like, and it happens over and over and over and over and over and over. And I'm like, I feel so sick in my stomach when I hear about like another one of these kids killed. Another one is killed. Another
Well,
one.
last
It's
year, the thing that was really troubling to me last year was
it doesn't seem like it's going to change anytime soon, and that's what's so upsetting.
the war overflooded into the streets. And so you had Kyle Rittenhouse. He goes and kills a couple people. And again, the argument is it's self-defense.
I don't know
Kyle
who that
Rittenhouse,
is.
17-year-old kid, and he just
Oh,
went,
okay. Yeah,
but
yeah,
it it wasn't like the kid was going in like on an active shooter drill. I mean, people were coming after him because
Mm-hmm.
the country was at each other's throats, and our leadership was not doing anything to bring us together.
yeah.
And so Rittenhouse gets in this horrible situation. Obviously, he kills a couple people on camera. And then a week later, a far leftist guy kills a Proud Boy, which is a far right guy on the street. And then it was so strange. They did a Vice interview with the guy. Vice did an interview with the suspect who killed the Proud Boy guy. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing we see is that guy got killed by police. Of course, there's no body cam. He allegedly shot at the police. And then Trump gets on Twitter and says, hey, there has to be retribution.
What?
We shot a video on that. But, like, my point isn't to bash Trump because I don't care about Trump or Biden. My point is just to say, like, we had a burgeoning civil war last year in our streets. We had Americans killing Americans.
Oh, yeah. Remember
And-
the cops just pushing people over? And
Yeah, it was one of the most, like, disheartening things for me, man, as a person who's not who was not born here, who fell in love with this country. It's just like, you're watching American, and I have no problem saying, look, I am on this side of the issue, that side of that issue, but it went somewhere, it just got mega ugly last year. Like, when it
really
overflowed into the streets, we had to shoot about 2 or 3 Middle America videos where Americans were literally killing each other at these rallies, man. And so, now things are so tribalized. It's unbelievable. Like, you're not even allowed to have a contrary opinion within your own group.
yeah, and I feel like that
It's insane.
the idea of war has traumatized the minds of lots of people, and so you think, you know, there's that saying, all's fair in love and war.
Yeah.
and that there are things that you will do in a state of war that you wouldn't do otherwise.
Yeah.
And I don't think that should be our mindset, because Americans are going to war against other Americans.
Yeah.
Instead of realizing what is right and what is wrong. And, strapping up, like, people have their opinions that differ from your own. And people were, remember, like, they were, somebody had, like, pretended they were part of, like, some crew, and then they were sitting there, they were recording them, and they were talking about all the stuff that they had hidden on their body, so that way they could go out into the crowd.
Yeah, the Antifa people.
Yeah, and it was just crazy because, like, some of the times when you hear them talk about it, people have, like, a sort of bloodthirsty giddiness to them. And it's like, that's not the point of, like, we're Christians, and so by that stance, we should be peace always and not. But, like, I'm having a hard time to completely adopt that philosophy, because there are certain situations where I'm like, well, that would be really difficult to not get violent in that situation. But I think that people differing in opinions and stuff like that, like, you can't just go after people for that. And then, like I said, like, if you have to do, like, I guess it would be the difference. This is going to sound like a really weird example maybe, but, like, the difference, but I'm a mom, so when I'm parenting my kids, if I'm like, yes, I can't wait to punish these little mother effers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you're like, I'm really looking for their future, and this behavior pattern is not good for them.
Right.
So there's a difference, and I think that even when you're dealing with things out in our political sphere, that there are some things that, like, they take a certain level of seriousness that we have to address, like killing black people in the streets. That takes a certain level of seriousness, but at the same time, there shouldn't be, like within the hearts of their own people, which it would be hard to not be like this, but to have, like, a certain, like, let's say somebody's kid, or somebody's tired of seeing, like, all these little, black teenage boys getting killed, and then they go out and they do something crazy, violence-wise, and then they're like, but inside they're, like, giddy about it, and they're like, yes, I can't wait. Or there's, like, I don't know, like, it's kind of a weird, I don't really know how to explain really what I'm saying, because it's sounding a little bit weird, I think. But, like, maybe because, like, the state of your own heart, and what the state of your own heart is, and where the state of your own heart is, I think is extremely important. And I think that our nation has lost, we said this before, empathy. We have lost feeling for other people, and there's so much heartache that's happening in the world around us, and there's people starving in places, which is absolutely insane and shouldn't even be a thing. Like, we should have no starving people, but people are selfish.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, the windows are closed, honey. It's just that I have a little bit tighter.
He talks about idiocracy, which is people. I think there was an actual documentary called Idiocracy, but there is this article that just came out.
Is idiocracy just like stupidity?
Yeah, it's basically a democracy that's ruled by idiots, or a government ruled by idiots, basically. And but it was interesting. There was this article because there's this big thing about voter suppression happening, and so this guy basically published an article and said, "Well, what's wrong with that? Should everybody be able to vote? Everybody shouldn't be able to vote." And then he starts, of course, only a certain demographic is going to agree with what the guy was saying, but he was basically saying, "This is a good thing. Like, restricting people's voting privileges is a good thing." Because there are certain people that know when minorities don't vote, they have a much better chance of winning. So their whole thing was, yeah, I mean, what's wrong with voter suppression? It's like, yeah, once you, and that's one of the reasons I stay away from the idiocracy language, even though it's, I understand it, because it creates this sort of like, to me, that's planting the seeds for voter suppression.
Oh, absolutely.
You can just plant that
100%.
little seed and say, oh, there's just really stupid people and yada yada yada, and then it becomes a joke, and then a couple people start telling the joke, and then it becomes a meme, and then it starts getting introduced in legislation, and people start saying, well, 16-year-olds can't vote, and felons can't vote, and felons should be able to vote.
That's literally what I was just gonna say. So I remember being like, no, and I do believe that I got this from people that had trained me, but like I was like, no, if you broke the law and you're in jail, then no, you're not gonna input into what our voting system should be. I don't think that you should. And then when I got to a certain age, and obviously conversations with Vinny, and I realized that just because you're in jail doesn't mean you even necessarily did anything like horrific. And how many times jail and like obviously the war on drugs and all that stuff was used to put people in jail that they wanted out of their, it's just crazy. Because it's like, okay, so I think that it was like probably that was part of like, you know, you have like the awakening that you said when you heard about the Jews and stuff like that, like everything happened there. And I think that a lot of mine, I think, was in regards to all of like the injustice with black people, I think was my bigger like, because I thought that was behind us and then realizing that it wasn't and I think that there's some things that we can do that's evil, but it's almost like thoughtless. Like a kid that gets mad at his brother and slaps him across the face. Like that's not right. But it wasn't like you planned out how you were going to hurt your brother. Like you sat there and planned a whole scheming plan of how you were going to hurt him tomorrow. That's so much worse. And the thought that like people sat around to come up with a plan of how they were going to put drugs in that area to get them hooked so that way they could put them in jail. And then jails are run by people who make money off the amount of people that are in jail. It's just absolutely sick to me that we can treat human beings worse than animals because the way that people we've seen, you know, that guy, his knuckles are all pushed back over here because now I get it. Like he was doing some stuff, but it's a fight back and forth, you know, because nobody's trying to, I remember at one point when I first came into this family and one of your kids that had then become mine always thought that anytime I corrected him that I was at war with him. And so that made it so that way that he would like come at me like with his words and his attitudes and stuff. And then I was like, are you serious? I came from a family, you follow those rules. And I'm like, how is this kid not listening to me? And so it kind of like created this weird environment instead of like, okay, somebody has to realize we're not in a war here. I'm trying to train you. Yeah. And so I think that, you know, I don't know. I don't even know where I was going with that. It's a sad
but
thing.
But you know, it's he.
Oh, that was talking about the prison systems where, you know, okay, there's a prisoner there, so but you have to. Are you trying to help these people, or is it just about throwing them in and then treating them like below animals?
And that's, you know, like. He used the phrase "we the people" and we'll march on Capitol. And when I was on that one app, you know, the app that Amazon shut down.
Amazon shut down?
Parler, yeah, because the Amazon had the super service that Parler was using.
Yeah, I knew it was Parler. I just didn't know Amazon.
When they were plotting this whole Capitol Hill thing, because a lot of these poor people were on the Parler app, they were plotting this stuff. That was a phrase they used all the time: "We the people this, we the people that," and they talked about storming Capitol Hill, but. You know, obviously those people got demonized, you know, and you know, the woman got shot, Ashley Babbitt, like 5 or 6 people died as a result of that incursion. And people were telling me like she was one of these far right crazy people, Vin. Like she didn't, you know, she was, you know, laughing at police shootings and blah 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 blah. So the
far right laughs at police shootings.
Far right.
Oh, when the police shoot other people.
Well, no, when police shoot black people.
Yeah. But no, I thought you meant when
so I was saying this is like, terrible. This happened to this young woman. Blah blah blah. People are like, look, man, she was on their team. She's not on your team. She didn't like you. I'm like, I know. Right. But it's still tragic that, you know, if you really took time to listen to these people that stormed the Capitol, like they were not. I mean, yeah, they were. Many of them obviously violent. And obviously racist, but not racist in the sense of like, we want to, I say this all the time, people don't understand, like, there are different kinds of racists.
Absolutely.
There are the types of racists that will string you up and kill you. Yeah. And then there are the type of racists that if your house is on fire, they would put it out, you just can't marry their daughter. Like, things are on a spectrum. Things are not that simple. Right. And my thing was, I'm looking at these people, and there's about 2 or 3 powerful people puppeteering the rest of this mass of people who are talking about they're gonna take back their country. They said goodbye to their families, all this. Like, they were really full of all this zeal and willing to lay it all on the line and take their country back because they had believed this insane story. And it was just sad that the way that, in my opinion, this good-hearted group of people that had good motives. I mean, they thought that they were going out there to fight against trafficking children and killing babies and drinking their blood and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and so they really were true believers. And that guy, just 2 or 3 people were able to puppeteer all these people right into their deaths. And to me, it's unconscionable. Like, we're watching a documentary right now about it on HBO, and it appears that one of the Q people has basically been outed. But, you know, it's just it's a sad thing that these powerful people could take.
Oh, really? One of the Q people might have been outed?
I think. Very well-intentioned people. And again, people are going to say, no, we're not well-intentioned. They were well-intentioned. If you believe that there's a secret cabal of people collecting babies and then slaughtering them in a satanic ritual and drinking their blood to maintain the fountain of youth, which I don't understand how anybody could think that Hillary Clinton thinks that that's real. Like, I'm not being funny. It's just she's clearly aging, right?
A lot,
Like, so it's you know, like she's looks the way that a person her age should look. So
right.
But if you really believe that, and you really believe that your country has been infiltrated by, you know, Luciferian baby blood drinkers, then you're going to go do something. Most people, especially most Americans are going to do something. So these guys went, they said, okay, we're going to do something. We're going to do something about it. We're not going to sit there and let our country. And, you know, there's these subconscious sort of, they're not in a good place economically. You know, not a lot of, like, you know what I'm saying? They're not a lot of people, not a lot of those folks are in a good place economically.
Yeah.
And it was just, I was watching the manipulation, because the guy was like, I'm not going to mention his name. He's like, be ready to sacrifice your blood and your treasure. It's time, blah, blah, blah. And the ringleader was sitting comfortably next to Trump while all these poor people were out there. It's just... And then people on the left had no sympathy for these people whatsoever. You know, like they saw, you know, they're like, good, they should have shot more people, blah, blah, blah. And I understand why, because there are elements on the right that love cruelty. They think that cruelty and hurting people and harm, oh, did you get triggered? They love that stuff. So then when it happens to them, left-wing folks are like, great, now your folks are getting shot on camera. Excellent. And they were celebrating.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, I understand the spirit of vengeance, man, but listen, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, Joe Biden and Trump and Kamala and you know, who was the other guy? The guy that looks like a bad guy from the X-Men. Mike Pence. Like, they're all safe.
I know. Yeah.
We're the one that's dying in the streets and at each other's throats and saying all types of crazy shit to each other on the internet. These motherfuckers out there chilling, bro. So,
I have one more question before we end that.
It's sad.
So, you know, like you were talking about people that will, like, puppeteer other people. I've seen it, like, I have a couple examples in my head of, like, somebody having that ability, because obviously not everybody has that ability, but somebody who has that ability and uses it for evil. We were watching that cult thing.
Yeah.
We were watching that, you know, there are people that have that ability. So who can you point at historically or in our time that does not puppeteer people for evil?
Well, I mean, you had the civil rights movement. You had Kennedy. You know, Kennedy wasn't perfect, but he was certainly progressive.
So he could puppeteer people?
Well, I think puppeteering is always going to be bad. Marionetting people is always going to be bad. If you have to, because you kind of have to be shadowy and behind the scenes and not at the front lines in order to be the person that does that. Mm-hmm. So a leader inherently is not going to be that kind of a person. They're going to be at the front. And that's why all the people I mentioned are dead. Mm-hmm. JFK, Martin, Malcolm, they all paid the price for it. Uh-huh. And that's one of the ways you can tell the difference between an actual revolutionary and a puppeteer. The revolutionary is going to be at the front of the line. And if he's going to get hit, he's going to get hit. We were in an organization that was doing some direct action stuff against a pretty major injustice. And it was the leaders that were getting in trouble with the police. It was the leaders that were in the media. The leaders... You know, that's how it's supposed... That's how you know it's genuine. If the leader's the one, A, that's willing to be in the front line, and B, calls attention to him or herself when it's time to get in trouble. That's a leader, right? The puppeteer is going to be in the back, and he's going to make sure that nothing happens to him or her, but everybody else is a good soldier, and then he pats him on the back and says all types of craziness. So then I'm looking at this thing after the incident, and these people are disillusioned. They don't know what to do. I'm sure there's been a couple suicides due to this. You know what I mean? Like, because they had this belief.
Intense purpose.
They had this belief and this purpose and this beautiful idea of America, and then to accept that they were completely lied to and the whole thing was bullshit, I think it was very difficult for people.
And a lot of times, people's pride comes up because
of course.
You've been talking all this big talk with everybody around you, and then all of a sudden you flip and you're something else. People can't handle that. But I was thinking, obviously, like, people will be like, oh, well, there's God. He's just up in the sky. The big, we're like pawns on a chessboard to him and stuff like that. And so when you were first talking, I'm like, okay, so then what would we say to that? Because we're Christians, and you said anybody who's a puppeteer, it's deceptive and secretive and stuff. But then you were like, that's the difference between a puppeteer and a revolutionary. A revolutionary is going to go right on the front lines. Then I was like, I saw Jesus. He's born and he comes and he dies. And so anyway,
that's the model. That's a real leader. So next time you run into one of these people and they're revolutionaries, just watch them.
Yeah.
So there you are. Good song. I loved it. Loved the metal. Very heavy. It's a 10 for me.
9.9 for me.
There you are, dear listener. I mean, what's the moral of the story, Sori? Oh, I think that's how we should end the video from now on. What's the moral of the story, Sori?
Well, the moral of mine is consider other people and hear from other people and love other people and stop looking at things as just words on a page, but actually understand there are people behind them.
There you are, dear listener. Vin out.
Sori out.
Down.